The Geneva Convention was codified back when a telegraph was the fastest method of communication and a cloth shirt was considered body armor. Maybe things need to be updated. The treaty was first established in 1864 as an international agreement that governed care of the sick and wounded on the battlefield. It was updated again in 1907 to reflect naval and maritime conflict, and again in 1929 after experiences in World War I showed deficiencies in the treatment of prisoners. Its final update came in 1949 after experiences in World War II showed that civilians needed greater protection. One note, there was an update in 2005 where the International Red Cross created the diamond symbol as an alternative for use of the Red Cross or Red Crescent for marking medical vehicles and buildings. Now, there are three essential rule books when it comes to war. There's the Geneva Conventions, there's been 4 of them. There's the LOAC, or Law of Armed Conflict, and there's the ROE, or Rules of Engagement. The Geneva Conventions are the basic minimum standard for human decency during a war. The LOAC, or Law of Armed Conflict, then overlays these rules of war with things like proportionality and military necessity. Then there's the ROE, or Rules of Engagement, sometimes called the SRO, or Standard Rules of Engagement. These rules are established by the combatants to govern the actions of their own soldiers and usually cover things like when you're allowed to use force and what level of force you're allowed to use. So what updates should probably be made to the Geneva Conventions in order to bring them in line with modern conflict? The first is the addition of body armor. So this stemmed from a video I did just yesterday. To start, we need to codify the status of body armor as PPE, or personal protective equipment. The current Geneva Conventions allow for soldiers to keep metal helmets and gas masks, and the reason is that a shell doesn't care if you've just been taken prisoner. Now, even though the rules say metal helmets, and today it's more likely that helmets are going to be made of composites like Kevlar, it seems like warring parties have allowed soldiers to keep their helmets. So they are following the spirit of the law, if not the letter of the law. So the first change is that we should allow combatants to keep their body armor as PPE, or personal protective equipment, at point of capture until they're moved to a safe area and those items can be taken into property and accounted for. Second is we need to enhance the rights of communication. Prisoners of war have the right to send and receive mail. For sending, they must be allowed at least 2 letters and 4 postcards a month. But this rule is old. It also talks about a soldier's right to send telegrams in case of emergency. Now, I actually looked this up, and apparently telegrams still exist. International Telegram still owns the old Western Union service, and they send 17 million telegrams per year. But in reality, everybody uses the internet. So we need to update the Geneva Conventions to reflect our modern times. Prisoners of war should be allowed access to email for communication. This could look like a shared computer lab, or it could exist as prisoners being issued tablets that you see in some American prisons. Now, of course, these devices and connections would be monitored, but at least it's a step toward modernization of the rules of communication. Number 3, open cities around nuclear and hydroelectric infrastructure. An open city is a non-defended locality in an area that has abandoned all defensive efforts in order to avoid destruction and humanitarian crisis. Probably the most famous open city was Manila in 1941. The Japanese were closing in on the city of Manila in the Philippines, and General MacArthur declared Manila an open city, that he wouldn't defend it in the hopes that he could spare it from destruction. The destruction of the Kharkova Dam and the threatening of nuclear sites in Chernobyl and Zaporizhia indicate that we may need to codify in the Geneva Convention that any hydroelectric station or commercial nuclear power plant is an open city. Perhaps there needs to be an exclusion zone of a certain radius where the only weapons permitted in that zone are of the plant security forces. And this could help prevent any kind of ecological disaster that is not confined to the borders of the warring parties. Finally, we need to consider the use of medical transponders. Medical evacuation vehicles cannot carry crew-served weapons and must be clearly marked. But enemy radar doesn't know that you're a medical evacuation vehicle. Now, this probably wasn't a problem back when anti-aircraft weapons were primarily used within visual range and you could see that red cross on the side of the helicopter. But now you can destroy a medical evacuation vehicle from miles away. So it may not be a bad idea to create a transponder standard so that medical evacuation vehicles can transmit this and hopefully avoid enemy fire while conducting life-saving duties. Remember, medics are non-combatants, and there may be friendly prisoners on that flight. So the idea isn't as crazy as it sounds. A medical transponder is just a Red Cross or Red Crescent, but electronic, and it reaches out further than visual range. Got any ideas that I may have missed? Let me know in the comments below. And hey, if you like the channel, you can toss me $5 on Substack, get a t-shirt from Bunker Branding, or a cameo greeting for the person in your life who loves the channel. And thank you so much for watching.
Mr. President? Yeah, that's me. I'm the president, man. Hey, little tugboat, did someone drop your anchor? It's 3 o'clock in the morning, Mr. President. Well, it's not like you got some girl in bed with you to wake up. Listen, you freaking nerd. I've got a problem. It's my vice principal, man. You're who? Come on, man. Camilla. Miss Harris, if you're nasty. She's got a Nerf Day coming up, man. I gotta get her a presentation. Well, Mr. President, how about a Ryan McBeth t-shirt from Bunker Branding? I've got Think Outside the Bomb, Live, Laugh, Launch, Repatriate, N for HIMARS, Department of the Boat People, Landmine marker shirts, and even Hell on a Wire. A lot of these come in hoodies and stickers as well. Yeah, I'll get a Ryan McBeth t-shirt from Bunker Branding. McBeth, he saved the reputation of the Tight House. Not the Tight House, the Tight House. The building, man, with the Rose Garden. Get with the program, man. Happy to help, Mr. President. And be sure to get yours at bunkerbranding.com.